Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast Weekend Edition. So what I'm going to do is go over, again, the things that we need to know in kind of pharmacy news with podcasts, with blogs, and other places that I found things that I think are relevant to this week. Let's start with the Naplex. Last year they released it on February 15, 2017, the scores that all the pharmacy schools got. And as a pre-pharmacy advisor, I really need to know what those scores are because students are making decisions between schools. We need to know, is the school on the rise or is the school on the decline, or are they staying about the same? Because two of the numbers that you really want to watch as you're looking towards a pharmacy school are how many students make it through and how many pass on the first time for the Naplex, because there's unfortunately a clause in a number of pharmacists to be contract that says that you have to pass the Naplex within X number of days, basically saying you get one shot at it. And I am writing another Naplex book. I expect it to be out by spring break, and I know you guys don't know what spring break is because those of you in fourth year APhA-ASP just mosey on through. There's no spring break for that. I think they give you a couple weeks in the fall and a couple in the spring about residencies, some schools. But I was looking for those, and just watch out for that. I will have a new Naplex audiobook for your commute to your APhA soon. Let's see, what did we have last week? The travel stipend contest winners. We announced those, and there were 4 of them. They were fantastic. But this week, I have another travel stipend contest with the rules in episode 45, where you can listen to Kevin Yee and hear a little bit about what the reality versus expectations are with the residency. But also, I'm putting up 2 more travel stipends to see if APhA-ASP groups can get together and put together X number of reviews for one of the books. And the challenge at first seems like it's, I've got to get 25 people to buy the book, and that really isn't it. There's already 11,000 people with the book, and there's only, 15,000 pharmacy students out there. There's probably a ton of pharmacy students already that have it. You just got to find them. My beef is that I've got 11,000 sales, but only 160 reviews, and those reviews really matter for when Audible says, hey, let's do a 2-for-1 deal or something like that. So what I'm really trying to get to is trying to bridge the gap between 163, which is I think the number of reviews I have, and 11,100 and something or other, which is the number of sales that I have. Okay. Brand new from TLDR Pharmacy is a fungal guide, and I really recommend his guides before you start into your RX prep or your other kind of, or your Kaplan or whatever you're doing for your Naplex review, because I think that, after you've had a long day at your APhA and then you've kind of get home, the last thing you want to do is, great, let me just sit at the computer and start clicking. And their guides are funny. Like his is, There's a Fungus Among Us, a beginner's guide to antifungals, and I think it's a guest post. I think Molly Curran, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Curran. She's got a ton of letters after her name, PharmD, BCPS, BCCCP. She's a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Health Outcomes and Pharmacy Practice at the University of Texas College of Pharmacy, and she's a clinical pharmacy specialist in internal medicine at Del Seton. And she really did a fantastic job of going over antifungals. You may know amphotericin, bad, and that's it. Like, that's your, amphoterrible. That's the extent of your antifungal knowledge. So again, a bunch of the content is free. Just go to tldrpharmacy.com and go to that fungal infection section. A couple of other ones that he has. that I recommend, but that before you go into your RX prep, that you read his stuff, because then it'll at least put you in a good mood, because they're just funny. And they're really relevant. So it's not just being clever, it's being clever and being really smart about things. His oncology review is amazing as well. If you're looking for one of those kind of, all right, well, how do I learn oncology? I didn't do it oncology, APPE or API. And then the HIV guide is also really, really pretty tremendous in terms of even just getting started, like what is HIV, all the way to some of the treatment. And if you want something a little more audio to kind of pair with those, so let's pair the wine with the meal. RX Radio had a really good oncology pharmacy episode. I think it's episode 16. And gives you a bit of insight into what it's like to do oncology as a pharmacist. And then Core Consult had a recent episode on influenza. And I really like those. Those tend to have a great, it's a good review of some clinical guidelines and things like that. I'm not a clinical pharmacist, but I can appreciate the need for the audio, because when do you have like extra time ever? Pharmacy Girl, she has her last minute interview tips. If you didn't read that from last time, those are really helpful. And then let's go through some of the other podcasts. We'll start with the mothership, the Pharmacy Podcast Network. So on Monday, kicked it off with understanding how pharmacy owners need to use data when we're talking about making a profit. And so when you have X amount of ROI, and so return on investment, and then you're going to find that, oh, wait a minute, that didn't come out right. I should have had X, and I ended up with Y. So I think they talked with Todd Stice and Trenton Jenks, the co-founders of RX Matrix. So understanding pharmacy business data and becoming more profitable. So if that's your niche. One of my favorite shows on the Pharmacy Podcast Network is Farming Your Career. And my father's Peruvian, and I have a bit of an international understanding of things, I guess you would say. And I love that Aaron Albert brought in Fiona Sartoretta Verna, who is from Italy. And you'll hear it right away when you hear her, but she seems very nice, and she actually does a great job explaining what it is to be in a super niche. And she's an architect, but she's an architect for pharmacies. And you think, oh, how can you possibly make money just doing one kind of design or pharmacy design? And if you're the best, then you go, and I think they've done over 1,000 renovations in 28 countries. So don't think, okay, well, I just want to, if I go into a niche, then I'll lose all the customers. No. You get rich in a niche. There's a reason why that's that way. And I think design is definitely something we don't talk about. It's something that I learned quite a bit about in my human-computer interaction coursework, as I got my master's in human-computer interaction, and really got an understanding of how design thinking, processes, things like that, really make things, it changes the way that you look at things. And then I love the title of her brother's book. Luca Sartoretta Verna is her brother, and it's Pharmacies from Hell, How to Bring About Change. So new sales techniques, taking control of the pharmacy while being recognized as a pharmacy expert. So that was pretty cool as well. Okay, let's see. So going kind of up the list here, next we had, and Matt's got a ton of vowels in his name as well. So, but Matt Patarini from Michigan is a non-traditional pharmacist on the Pharmacy Podcast Network, and he talks with a nuclear pharmacist. I talked about that on the Pharmacy Future Leaders with somebody who went nuclear, then was in charge of a pharmacy tech program, and now he's over at one of the freece.com, but Matt talks with pharmacist Tim Burke and really goes through all the things that you need to know about this kind of specialty niche job. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, that's kind of cool as well. Todd Urey just took a couple minutes to go over the number of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. It just has a golden Rolodex of companies, McKesson, Cardinal, HD Smith, CVS Health, that are sponsoring many of the episodes, and I would read them all, but there are many podcasts that are part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. The one thing I just wanted to bring your attention to is that he's sorted them on SoundCloud, so if the Fit Pharmacist is something you really like to follow, the non-traditional pharmacist, obviously Pharmacy Leaders, you can go to SoundCloud and you can see just those podcasts sorted out. I do it a little bit differently at pharmacy.libsyn.com, so pharmacy.libsyn.com. The way that I do it is I do it by topic, since I'm one podcast within the network. So whether it's residency, whether it's women leaders, those types of things, you can find that on the right-hand side of the nav bar. Okay. Moving on, a couple of other podcasts I follow. I don't think they've your YFP guys have released anything recently, but I think there was a kind of Working as a Couple was the last episode that they released, and so much of our financial future depends on our spouses, and I'm very lucky to have somebody who is certainly a bit more frugal than I am and very smart with money, but I really like following those guys. Those guys have a lot of good advice. Tim Ulbrich, Tim Baker. Let's see. So Talk to Your Pharmacist. Hillary Blackburn. I didn't mention the episode about establishing your expertise, but she released that in the beginning of February. And then what's going on for next week with the Pharmacy Leaders podcast. So for sure we're going to have an interview on Monday with a student, a fantastic student who's graduating from CHSU, California Health Sciences University. And we talk often about the new schools and how are those students doing. And she seemed like she was doing great. She graduated from USC, went up to CHSU, and then has a number of residency interviews within AmCare and community pharmacy. And I think you'll really enjoy that episode. This last week, we did something that I really wanted to do, and I hope I can do again. There's always an open invitation if you are a pharmacy student, if you are a pharmacy professor, and you want to interview another pharmacy student or a pharmacy professor, you are welcome to send me an MP3, 20 to 25 minutes. Follow the guidelines, obviously, that we used last week. But that's all you need to do is just send me it, and I'll be happy to publish it. My goal is to send and elevate the profession by elevating individuals who are doing great things within leadership. On Monday, we had the pharmacy professor and pharmacy student with Jackie Boyle and Laura Nice. On Wednesday, we had pharmacist Kevin Yee with a resident from that kind of gave you an insight into what it's like to be in an actual, residency, and she went through, those things that she wanted, or not wanted, but expected, and then some of the things that were a little bit of a surprise. But that was a really phenomenal episode as well. And then the other episode was Mudit Verma being interviewed by Marion, and I don't want to pronounce her last name. It's Gharbi. I know that it's not pronounced like I want to pronounce it. Who is the APhA-ASP National Member at Large, but she did a great job interviewing Mudit. So whether it's student to student, professor to professor, professor to student, student to professor, resident to student, student to resident, residency director, whatever it is, get in touch with me and I'll mentor you through it, and let's get a podcast episode out to highlight whatever it is that you feel is important, whether it's your residency site, whether it's your College of Pharmacy or whether it's just something cool that you did that other pharmacy students would like to know about. Okay? Let's see. So last things I wanted to go over, Pharmacy Expo is going on now. The Iowa Pharmacy Association gets together with a number of the Midwest Pharmacy Associations, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Pharmacy Society of Wisconsin, South Dakota Pharmacists Association, and they are down at the Holiday Inn and Conference Center down on Fleur in Des Moines. So if you haven't joined them, I definitely recommend that you do. That really is I couldn't do it because I had some things going on this weekend, but really nice to connect with not just Iowans, but to connect with 8 different boards of pharmacy there. Okay, well, that's it for the weekend episode. Look forward to our next episode on Monday. And then I hope that you APhA-ASP students do take me up on the offer for that last travel stipend. That was the one I really wanted to see if the groups could come together and kind of go on that scavenger hunt, find those students that have already got memorizing pharmacology. All right, have a good weekend.
Support for this episode comes from the audiobook Memorizing Pharmacology, a relaxed approach. With over 9,000 sales in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, it's the go-to resource to ease the pharmacology challenge. Available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com, in print, ebook, and audiobook. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.